see, this one says Rachel.
Rachel.
Rachel. Rachel here. Okay. These all, actually, they've got pictures, about 20 or 30 pictures, but these are like 16 gigabytes. So you could back up your computer or anything you want with these things. This one says Sarah. This one says Sam.
Sam's over there. And Alex. Dad, you and Alex almost have the same hairdo. Get there. Yeah.
This is not the first time we've been taking an identical picture.
Yeah.
The graduation.
Oh, yeah?
We look exactly the same in our graduation pictures.
That's hysterical. Oh, I can't wait to see that. What do you want to say to your Grandpa Paul? Anything?
It was nice seeing you, and it's cool that you have all the birds and the dogs.
Yay, thank you.
Really wonderful that we could all make it
Today.
here today, and we just want to say I love everyone.
Yay.
So from this side of the Ryner family, which involves my mom and dad, Andrea and Bruce. This is us, my brother Pete, his wife, and we're proud to be here for a reunion of the Ryner family.
Yeah.
And what's left of it, we should keep it going strong, and hopefully even the youngest are doing something similar to this, and hopefully we'll be around that we can attend it as well.
We can get walkers and get over here.
I guess I've elected myself the family historian since I'm the oldest of everybody. This is an important part of our history because my father had this in a box, and my mother gave it to me when he passed away, and it's from my grandfather, Hubert Piercy Ryner, typical old Irish names, and I found out that it was called a shillelagh from Ireland, and let's go back to the whole story so you know the very beginning. The Ryner family came from Saxony in the Rhine Valley. I'm sure they weren't called Ryners. They could have had any name, Smith or whatever, but when they moved to Ireland, they were Ryners because they were from the Rhine, like the Rhine River. Okay, these are Ryners. So, but they spelled it with an R-Y, so they didn't sound too German. So that's where the Ryners started. I went to England and Ireland about in the early 80s, and I went to a pub, and sure enough, looked in the phone book, and there was half a dozen Ryner. I don't know what's going to matter. Anyway, it's interesting. So I found on eBay a guy in Ireland that saved up about 12 of these blackthorn. This is like a crowbar. It's like steel, but it's from a blackthorn plant. They're protected now. You can't cut them for canes anymore, but he had saved some. So I bought one for about $39 US dollars, and I got it in the mail and shaped it up with the gold thing back on it the way it originally was, a little rubber tip on the bottom, and my shillelagh's back. So, it's really nice. But I think I didn't finish the story of what happened. Oh, now my nose is running. I'm in bed. Anyway, so I hope you're not filming this.
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
We can cut it out.
It'll all seem funny. No, don't cut it out. It's the best part.
Okay.
Anyway, they moved to they went to Ireland, and then in the late 1850s, probably a little later than that, they had a terrible famine in Ireland, a potato famine, and they immigrated then to the United States. And Hubert was a banker. I guess in those days you weren't just a banker; he owned a bank. So they were doing pretty well. You can see from the houses and the pictures that I gave most of the people here. They had a really nice house for those days in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. And anyway, that's the main part of the story. And the Ryners really have a really interesting history. And the Ryners, as you can see, come from good stock. All good-looking people, especially the girls. So, sorry for breaking up. Let me finish my story.
I'm going to do what I do best,
Talk.
sing.
Okay, we're going to get a song.
We should be the crying here.
I know.
This is the song I sang when Mother Ryner and Francis died. I sang for them on the streets as I do my walks. I hope I can be on key now. Smile, for your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. When there's a cloud in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile, and maybe tomorrow the sun will come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness, although a tear may be ever so near. That's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.
Yeah, we never got to live in the same area or anything. Well, I'm sure we got to do this every 10 years.
And we'll make the kids that are now getting jobs, then make them fit.
Make sure they get good jobs.
No, this is great. You have to write that stuff down because it's great to hear it. I never knew any of that history. You can write it down.
I've been piecing it together because the trip to Ireland filled in a lot of the blanks.
Yeah.
'Cause I thought, somebody said Irish, that Ryner was an Irish name, and that's not Irish, it's German. So I went around trying to learn German. I learned to count to 20 or something in German, thinking I was German. But I'm not. Look at that.
Wow. Yeah, definitely write it down. But it's great to have everyone here. Thank you, dear Lord, for arranging it all.
Daniel, you want to say something?
I have a question about that cane.
Yeah.
You said that your grandpa gave it to you, but you said you bought it on eBay.
No, it's I bought pieces of it. And actually, I never met my grandfather, but my grandfather, I guess, gave the cane to my father. Somebody in my family, not my father, saw the gold on there and said, "Oh, this is worth a lot of money." So they cut the cane, cut the bottom off, and put this gold part in a little metal box. And when my mother passed away, she found all this stuff in the box, and she gave this to me. Before she passed away, yeah, when my father passed away. She gave it to me, and I just recently, I found that you can buy this material in Ireland on eBay. You know eBay, right? Okay. And so I bought one, and you can't buy them anymore. They won't let people cut this wood from Ireland anymore because it's a sort of a rare wood. But you can feel it. It's like a piece of iron. It's not like wood at all. I mean, you can bang it on the wall and you can never break it. So it's very good for a stick, because the worst thing to happen with a walking stick is to put your weight on it and have it break. I mean, then you're in trouble. This won't break, but that's you're right, you know, and it can break. But that's it. So I put it together. I bought the stick and I put the stick back into the head, and I got the old shillelagh back again. And it's called a shillelagh because in Ireland they use it for walking, but in those days they didn't have knives and guns and all this horrible stuff that they carry around nowadays. They had a shillelagh. If somebody came up and tried to rob them or something, this was really strong. You could protect yourself.
In 2 words, older people like us, we live on nostalgic memories. You're too young to know what that means. But when people die and we cry, then that's what we should cry. Not when we lose a dog. This is what keeps us going. Memories.
I'm not going to sing, believe me.
No.
I really appreciate Laura putting this together. together. We've been talking about it for a long time, and we have all kind of spread out a little bit more than we used to be. We used to see each other a lot more. So this is really, really, really special. And great, I mean, this is my dad, and I'm still learning things about him. And everybody in my family, I know genetically we have all the same kind of stuff, right? The engineering, the asthma, the whatever. So I've always really felt like really related to my dad. And my mom, of course, more so now because I start to look like her and act like her. But growing up, I was my dad. I was definitely, when we were both sick home at the same time, all that stuff. So, and I know in the engineering part, the science part, that comes from him. But now it's really cool because now the next generation, these folks over here, they're a reflection of all of us. And it's really cool. Now I have connections with these people. Like Rachel's going into science now. She actually talked to one of my old professor friends at Oregon State.
Math too?
Yeah, in math.
And Alex?
Alex is total science geek, and he now lives in the city and does all the stuff I used to do, riding bikes all over San Francisco, rock climbing. So it's super cool to see the next generation come up and be really a reflection of all the people in the room. I think it's really great that we're all together and having fun. Okay, I'll shut up.
I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I had no idea there were so many writers. And it's a great family. Great to see you all. Thank you all for making it. Thank you.
Personal thing. I bought this suit 45 years ago.
Oh, and he's still
when bell bottoms were in style. You can't find a bell bottom suit these days. And
Yeah, they are.
Actually, I've lost a little weight. I just noticed I'm walking around like a chulo. Pulling them up because I've actually lost a little weight from when I was 17. But I was about 21 when I bought this.
Wow.
So I was surprised. But I only wore it 2 or 3 times. So I'll wear it. I got it from a bargain. Magnums in San Francisco. When they have a sale, this had evidently been tailored for somebody. These suits are like, even those days, $400 at least. And somebody had it tailored and then they didn't want it. So Magnums had a sale to clear out all the stuff that they didn't want. I didn't pay much for it, like maybe $100. And that was a lot of money for us in those days, but it fit me perfectly and I liked it. And I put it on the other day. I said, oh, we're just for the reunion.
Yeah.
That's sort of.
Yeah, look.
Everybody here and see everybody. Thanks for coming, everyone. And sound like everybody else. Let's do this again soon.
You know what we should do is like when you get your house all done, your fish cabin, we should have like a reunion in the summer at your lake house.
Yeah, the lake house, the fish house.
To Leah. When I was a teen, I worked for the U.S. Forest Service, Smokey the Bear. I spent every summer as a firefighter and one winter in timber sand improvement. When we gathered up all the pine cones before the squirrels could get the seeds and brought them to a big warehouse where we danced on the cones until the seeds fell to the floor. We swept them up and put them in burlap bags to be planted next spring. The Forest Service does this after every major drought. Reforestation. Love, Grandpa Paul.
Aw, thank you, Leah. There's 2 parts. One's an intro, and then he has a thing about Paul. Here's an update before I talk about my dear Paul. Paul's long-haired Chihuahua Foxy, who liked him a lot and vice versa, passed away about 3 weeks ago of a broken heart. Though I tried very hard to make her feel happy, she liked me, but she just followed Paul everywhere. Last week here in town, Paul Laverne Cummings, who was the American singing star at Pinocchio Club, whom I worked with on stage too, and we remained very good friends since 1970, got killed on the street near his apartment here in Las Vegas by an older woman driving. By the way, my Paul and my mom Tila knew Laverne well too. Okay, on a happier note, in mid-May of this year, a 3-person TV crew of Dutch descent living and working in South Africa will be coming to Las Vegas for a few days, as they are going to film me here at home for 2 days as a special documentary about my personal life, spanning back to my Cuban days to my theatrical life, about my 46-year-old long stay with Paul, who was supposed to be in it, though Paul hated the cameras and talking. So I will do it for him, and still photos will be used. That crew will stop in San Francisco first and film Potrero Hill, our first home, which was at 1133 DeHaro Street and my former hair salon at 18th and Kansas Street. Then they will head to Broadway and film the outside of what was then the world-famous Pinocchio crew. While in Las Vegas, the TV crew will take me to dinner on my birthday, and also on the last day of this stay, I told them they will be my swan song, because I cannot last too long on this earth without Paul. Each day and night that passes, I feel as if only a terrible nightmare, but when I were to wake up, Paul would still be here with me, but it is not so. Reality sinks in, and that silence here at home, especially in the nighttime, is the most horrible feeling I will ever experience in my entire life. And God knows, when my mom Tila died, half of me died too, because she was also a pillar in my life. I will tell on this documentary that I always felt like a pretty kite and a very pretty tail flying high in the sky, because Paul held the string. But when that string broke loose, then that pretty kite lost all its bright colors and just went hitting from rooftops to the ground and so on. I know there will be no more rainbows for me in this lifetime, and only when I go to the Emerald City in the land of Oz, hopefully I will be reunited with Paul, my mom Tila, and all the lovely people that gave me moments of happiness and bright light in my life. What I can say about Paul Ryner, that my mom Tila said so well in just 2 words: the genius. At his job as a mechanical engineer, he was at his best. Then promoted eventually to project manager. He even did often the bad work other draftsmen did, because he did not want them to get fired. At different homes, especially the one in Potrero Hill, he did most wonderful and creative work of craftsmanship in repairing and reconstructing a home that should have been torn down. And the same thing he did with my parents' home in Potrero Hill. Cooking without being a professional cook like Martha Stewart, Paul cooked so well and with such refinement in its presentation that since he died, I can't cook anything in our kitchen. In fact, when I eat lunch, I feel a bit guilty because he is not there next to me because of how he enjoyed eating. He created an award-winning website for me by just buying a book entitled HTML for Dummies, and he had never done that before. Thanks to his videotaping, most of my live performances are now on YouTube for others to see. To Laura and Lisa, you will appreciate the fact that your father had the smallest and prettiest nose that I'd ever seen in a man. Even at the becoming of 83 years of age, his legs and feet were so smooth that he looked like it belonged to a man of 40. Did you know that at Polytech High School, when he ran track, he either ran or competed with then not too famous yet singer Johnny Mathis. I can go on telling you and others what Paul Ryner meant to me, about his intelligent mind, about his great creativity, and how he cared for all of you but did not know how to show it. He worried about Dave, and he knew he was in good hands with Tina, and so on. But as I wake up every day, the pain is so strong in me that I feel at times I cannot make it. But when I walk into that side of the yard here at our home and see all the plants that he planted from scratch, because there were no plants here when we bought this home in 2004, somehow his legacy lives on. I can't be with you now because of my many pets that I have to take care of, and because without Paul I have no desire to ever travel again. But believe me, Paul is alive in my heart, and on a funny note, since his passing, I've been wearing his clothes, and not mine as before. Well, I don't do a very good butch job, doing so, but at least I feel close to him somehow. Listen, for someone like Paul, who did not like applause and publicity like I always wanted and needed Paul, has now his ashes in 3 special places: here at home, at Lisa's, and then pretty soon in some lovely wooded area in Santa Cruz Mountains. Yep. I won't say rest in peace because that sounds too boring, but Paul sees all the planets and galaxies and other beings and other planets and enjoy. Please wait for me, and please don't reincarnate any more here on Earth. God bless you all. David Harry D'Alba.
Oh, that's really, really, really nice.